I am obsessed with true crime. I love the criminal justice system. When I saw this in W.H. Smith, I just thought, yes, this is issue 1 of Crime magazine, and it also says that it's the UK's first crime TV guide, which makes me ridiculously excited as I love crime documentaries. And I thought, I'm not alone. There are many people who love true crime. It warrants its own magazine. So I thought I'd share the contents of this with you in an ASMR video. Needless to say, some of this content may be of an upsetting or disturbing nature. So this is not going to be a video for everybody. But if you would like to look through Crime magazine with me, you are more than welcome. So I am a little bit excited about this. I've read it cover to cover. I loved it. I'm looking forward to sharing it. As I think I said in the beginning, this may contain some disturbing images. So if you are of a sensitive disposition, look away now. Let's get past the contents. So, as you can see here, a recent TV drama. So a lot of this is about true crime, but a lot of it looks at current TV dramas based on true events. It does say on the front that it's the UK's first crime TV guide, which is a fan of crime dramas. Makes me very happy. So this is quite an interesting case about a young girl who was, well, there's several murders and abductions by one man. I'm going to try and not spoil any of these stories for you in case you can get hold of this issue and you want to read them for yourself. But obviously a lot of these are public knowledge. They would have been big stories at the time. So it's kind of hard to not spoil them. Good heavens, this one here is about a man in America, in Phoenix, Arizona, who he was a nurse who ostensibly raped a patient in a coma, and that patient then, while in the coma, became pregnant and had a baby. It doesn't bear thinking about. This one's about a young girl who she was abducted, but he killed her parents and then abducted her, and it was 88 days in captivity. She escaped and then learned her parents were dead. I mean, that's horrible. Alicia McPhail, a very recent story. Does it have the exact date? No, it doesn't, but it was either this year or last year, and basically this 6-year-old was murdered because the murderer was obsessed with Slender Man. And there's another story about Slender Man a little further into this that is just so disturbing. This one's a very confusing story. It's about the murder of a little girl, and it was in 1996. And I hadn't heard of this story, so I won't spoil it, as it were. But there are various different suspects and different reasons, or proposed reasons, for her death, her murder. And it's very difficult to know what to believe. But there seems to be a conclusion for the cold case. So we'll look at kind of high-scale crime, which doesn't interest me that much. Yeah, so as I said, there will be some disturbing images in this video. This one is about two brothers who murdered their own parents. It's insane. I really like this bit. So it looks at blood splatter patterns, which is one of... I find it so fascinating. I was watching a film this morning, Demons Never Die, a very odd film from I think 2011, and one of the characters was murdered, and there was blood all up the wall, but it was made to look like a suicide. And that's not the that wouldn't have been the blood spatter pattern of a suicide, and the cops in the show just completely didn't acknowledge that. So I guess the only downside to being obsessed with true crime is it being over-analytical when it comes to thriller films. Oh goodness. Okay, this one's another very recent case about a student graduate called Grace. This was quite a big story in the UK. She went backpacking and was found murdered while she was in New Zealand. Yeah, I think the more recent cases are definitely harder to read about. I feel like it was very sensitively written. I mean, I think all of this is sensitively written. It's not done untastefully or distastefully. Honestly, this is just... I just can never get over this case. This was in 2008. It feels longer ago than that. But I guess... if I had to guess... I just made a very weird noise with my mouth. If I had to guess, this came about because of the amount of money that was being pumped into the disappearance of Maddie McCann over the February, March, April, May, over the preceding 9-10 months. And basically, if you don't know this story, which I assume if you're quite young, first of all, if you're quite young and watching this video, I can only apologise. Or if you're maybe outside of the UK. Although I would be interested to learn what the reception for this was like outside of the UK. I don't know. Basically, excuse me, I'm very tired. Shannon Matthews went missing, allegedly. And here we have her mother, Karen Matthews, you know, pleading for her safe return. But actually, Shannon Matthews was hidden. She was kidnapped and hidden in, I believe, her uncle's house. Her mother was obviously in on it, and it was all about getting the reward money. And I guess some public attention as well. This picture, I think, speaks volume. And Shannon Matthews. How long was it? There's a day somewhere in this article that says, where is it? Just trying to quickly find. I can't remember. Yeah, I can't find it, but basically, 24 days. So she was held in captivity for 24 days. And when I was younger, I thought that Shannon Matthews was fine with it and that she was going along with it, but from the tone of this article and what I've read, she was, you know, kidnapped and held against her will. You know, she would have been terrified. She was given a new identity and went into foster care. Thank goodness, you know, a chance at a normal life. I would love to know what she's doing now and how she's getting on, and I hope she's doing very well for herself. I would never know that because she has a new identity. I hope Karen Matthews rots in hell. This is an interesting article that I knew nothing about. This was, I think, actually this was only like last year, the year before maybe. It wasn't that long ago. Basically it's about an affair gone wrong. Somebody was having an affair with somebody else and somebody got annoyed, so they killed the other person. It's obviously more complex than that, but it's definitely worth reading. It's very interesting. very heartbreaking as well, for the family involved. It's this is a story about a mother who worked in a bank, and some people broke into her home and demanded that she went to the vault in the bank and gave them the money, and severely put her life and her daughter's life in danger. Crime in Hollywood. This is Tarantino's upcoming film. I probably won't be going to see it, but it looks interesting enough. Forensic science. This just takes a very snapshot look at forensics and how trace evidence is so valuable. And if you don't know anything about forensics, I think it's a nice little introduction. This article didn't really strike any chords with me, which is annoying because it's like it's the feature article of the whole magazine. This was so interesting. This is History versus Hollywood, and it looks at films that have portrayed two crimes and the actors. And I think the thing I find most about this is the casting choices. Some of them are very interesting. And some of them you think, why did you cast that? Like, I think this here, I'll just see if I can, it's on the fold, I can't do anything. But here we have Patricia Arquette as Joyce Mitchell, which I think is a pretty good casting there. Some of the casting there is alright. John Travolta as Robert Shapiro. Cuba Gooding Jr. as OJ. David Schwimmer as Robert Kardashian, as it were. Sarah Paulson down there. There's some pretty good casting. I think it's important to get the casting right, otherwise it just doesn't feel like an accurate portrayal. This one, oh my goodness. Okay, so this one is about a police officer in America who murdered somebody. She murdered Sherry Rasmussen in 1985, and it wasn't until 2009, I believe, that she was found out. And that's because of the developments in forensics and the way they can revisit cold cases and reassess DNA and trace evidence that has been locked up securely in storage since then. And I just love that. It may take 23 years, but justice will get to you. I'd certainly like to read more about this case. It's very interesting. Excuse me. Now, this one is... I was too young at the time of this story to know anything about it. In fact, the murder of Jamie Bulger was in February 1993. I was 11 months old, and it's weird to think, I always think of Jamie Bulger as this little boy. He's older than me, significantly older than me in fact, or would be. And also the fact that they managed to get the exact same jumper is a bit terrifying. Again, if you're not aware of this story for whatever reason, these two 10-year-old boys, I think they were 10, Venables and Thompson, they murdered the young Jamie Bulger. And it's such a harrowing, horrific story. These images come from a short film that was made about him called Detainment. And apparently, according to this little bit here, it had quite a lot of hate, and apparently it's not been very well received. But I'm looking forward to watching it. I also want to watch Trevor McDonald's latest by Jamie Bulger. I'd like to pick up some of the books as well. Very fascinating, heartbreaking case that just, it's unbelievable. It really is. None of these articles really moved me. Oh goodness, I mean, I read this article and I just thought, what is going on? This is, oh my goodness, it's so shocking. I think I'd heard of this briefly, but not in any detail. Basically, in 2009, these 12-year-old girls, Ennis and Morgan, murdered their best friend, whose name was Peyton. They murdered Peyton because they believed that by sacrificing their best friend to Slenderman, Slenderman would show himself to them, to the girls. And, well, I don't even know what they were expecting after that, to be perfectly honest. But that is 12 years old. It's just, and they murdered their best friend. I don't think she was murdered. I think she survived. I think she did survive, which is a good thing. But they tried to murder her over Slenderman. It's despicable. It really is. I love dogs. This is a story about two children who were murdered by their own father over a custody battle. This beautiful doggy who helped to find them and locate them. Then we get to the bit about crime on scene, some upcoming dramas and other things. Leaving Neverland. I think I'd like to watch that. Oh, one of my favourite shows. I recently actually did a review of 24 Hours in Police Custody. I say a review. I'd like to think I was constructive, but I think I probably just gushed about how fantastic it is. Yeah, and it's all about life as part of the Bedfordshire police team, and it's amazing. Fred and Rose West. Again, I was too young to really, I wasn't even born a lot of the time to know anything about this case. I've learned bits over the years, but I'd like to delve properly into that. Another Sir Trevor MacDonald one there. When Missing Turns to Murder, a story about, that's self-evident, I guess. Crime books. Jack the Ripper. That's really interesting because just glancing at that, I wouldn't have thought that was a crime novel. I know one shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but it's physically impossible not to. Line of Duty, I'm not interested in. The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst. This sounds really interesting. This is, it's a documentary about somebody who seems to be like a really intelligent man who has done a lot of damage. And I think that sounds really interesting. Over here we have the confession tapes, which is about people admitting their guilt, really. Again, it sounds really fascinating. What the Killer Did Next. Philip Glenister presents this documentary. Is it a documentary or a series? It's a series about what murderers do immediately after they've committed the murder, which does sound really great. Abducted in Plain Sight. This is actually one that's been on my radar for quite a while because it's whenever I was watching the Maddie McCann documentary on Netflix, it would recommend this one. So I'm definitely going to be watching that soon. Buried in the Backyard, about murderers who bury their victims in their own backyards. Crime and Punishment, Babes in the Wood, another Trevor McDonald one. I'm looking forward to that. You even get £1 off your next one. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. And this was $1.99. I don't know if that was an introductory offer or not. But I thought it was spectacular. I will happily buy the next issue. And I would love to know what you think of this one. And my thanks to Crime Monthly for finally giving me a magazine that I feel was specifically made for me.